It was a cold, misty evening in London, the kind of night where the air carries secrets, where the streets glisten under the orange glow of streetlights, and where every shadow seems heavier than usual. On such a night, whispers began to travel through the veins of the city, whispers that Victor Osimhen, one of the most feared strikers in world football, had quietly arrived in London, not for sightseeing, not for leisure, but for something far more dangerous, a hidden meeting with Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea fans didn't know it yet. The media didn't know it yet. Even most insiders were caught off guard. For weeks, the news around Osimhen had been full of noise, deals collapsing, negotiations stalling, agents playing poker with the press. Headlines screamed about his rejection of Chelsea's offers, his refusal of the cursed number 9 shirt, and his doubts about the Premier League project under Enzo Maresca. But what nobody expected was that, behind the headlines, a secret story was unfolding, one that could change the entire transfer saga in a single night, inside a luxury London hotel, far from the prying eyes of paparazzi and far from the roaring chants of Stamford Bridge. A select group of Chelsea executives were waiting, phones switched off, curtains drawn, security on high alert. They weren't waiting for just anyone. They were waiting for the man who could become the face of their club's next era, Victor Osimhen, the Nigerian striker whose name had become synonymous with goals, grit, and glory. The man who had carried Napoli to their first Serie A title in over 3 decades, breaking records and chains in the process. The man who wore a mask not just on the pitch, but in life. A mask of determination, of resilience, of defiance. And yet, behind that mask, Chelsea hoped to uncover something more, a willingness to finally lead the Blues into a new era of dominance. But Chelsea's hope came with baggage. Everyone in football knows the curse of Chelsea's number 9. From Fernando Torres to Alvaro Morata, from Gonzalo Higuain to Romelu Lukaku, the shirt had swallowed careers whole. It had become less of a number and more of a nightmare. And as the minutes ticked toward Osimhen's arrival, that curse hung in the air like an unspoken ghost haunting the room. When the doors finally opened, silence took over. Osimhen entered with his agent, his steps firm, his face unreadable behind that iconic protective mask. He was not here to be dazzled by Chelsea's promises or to be softened by luxury. He was here with intent. Chelsea's executives, including key board members and Maresca himself, rose to greet him. The handshake was firm, the smiles polite, but beneath the surface, there was tension. This wasn't a celebration. This was a negotiation. Chelsea laid out their case first. They painted the vision, the club's grand project, the £1 billion investments, the faith in Maresca's system, and the need for a striker who could finish what others could not. They showed him the plans, the tactics, the way he would fit like the final puzzle piece. They promised him money, astronomical wages that would make him one of the highest paid players in the Premier League. They promised him glory, the chance to write his name alongside legends. But as Osimhen listened, nodding occasionally, his silence spoke louder than words. He had heard all this before. Money, glory, promises. For him, these were not enough anymore. As the conversation deepened, Chelsea's board members leaned in, expecting to iron out salary structures and performance bonuses. They expected debates over image rights, loyalty clauses, and long-term incentives. But then, the energy in the room shifted. Osimhen put his hand on the table, leaned slightly forward, and finally broke his silence. His words were calm, deliberate, and yet heavy with the weight of history. He wasn't here to discuss money. He wasn't here to haggle over a few £1,000s in weekly wages. He was here for something else, something that made the Chelsea. Officials exchanged startled glances across the table. The room went quiet. Maresca leaned back in his chair, trying to read the striker's expression. The executives shuffled their notes, unsure of where this was going. And then, in a voice firm enough to cut through the tension, Osimhen said it. "I will come to Chelsea, but only on one condition." The sentence hit like a thunderclap. A £1 billion football club reduced to silence by a single demand. A demand that nobody had expected. The condition was not about wages, not about bonuses, not even about guarantees of playing time. This was something deeper, something more personal, something that could reshape not just his career, but Chelsea's identity as a club. The executives sat frozen, unsure whether they were about to hear a request they could grant, or an ultimatum that could destroy everything they had been building. Outside the hotel, the city of London moved on unaware. Taxis honked, night owls stumbled from pubs, and the Thames reflected the glow of the moon. But inside that room, history was balancing on the edge of a knife, because the next words out of Victor Osimhen's mouth would either bring Chelsea the striker they had been craving for years, or push him further away than ever before. The silence stretched. You could almost hear the heartbeat of every person in the room. Maresca's eyes narrowed slightly, his mind already running through possible scenarios. Could this be about the infamous number 9 shirt? Could this be about leadership guarantees? Or was it something far more controversial? Osimhen paused, letting the weight of his demand sink into the air. And just before he revealed the shocking truth, the meeting seemed to hang in time, as if the footballing gods themselves were holding their breath. The condition was about to be spoken, and once it was, there would be no turning back. And in that moment, Chelsea realized this was not just a negotiation. This was a test of courage, of tradition, of identity. Osimhen's condition would either crown him as the savior of Stamford Bridge, or remind Chelsea why their number 9 curse has never been broken. And what he asked for was something no player had ever dared to demand before. The room was silent, the kind of silence that doesn't just fill the air, it chokes it. The Chelsea executives had walked into this meeting expecting a negotiation. They thought Osimhen would push for a record-breaking wage, maybe demand a release clause, or insist on guaranteed starts. That's the game of modern football, a business of numbers, clauses, and signatures. But this silence, it meant something else was coming, something outside the script, something dangerous. Victor Osimhen leaned back in his chair, his mask reflecting the soft glow of the chandelier above. His eyes scanned the room. Maresca, arms folded, Chelsea's chief negotiators, stiff-backed and expectant, agents ready with their pens, but unsure if they'd even be needed. Finally, in a voice low but steady, he revealed his condition. I will not be just another Chelsea striker. If I join this club, I will join only if I am given the freedom to break the curse on my own terms. I will not wear the number 9 shirt unless it is given to me with the promise that the curse ends here, with me, and if not, then I will not play for Chelsea at all. The words sliced through the room like a blade. The number 9 shirt, the cursed number that had haunted Chelsea for years. Strikers had come and gone. Great names reduced to shadows of themselves the moment they wore it. Torres, Morata, Higuain, Lukaku, all victims of its weight. And here was Osimhen, not rejecting Chelsea outright, not chasing money, but demanding something far stranger, the power to rewrite history. The executives exchanged glances. Some looked stunned, others visibly uncomfortable. One of them whispered, "He's asking for the impossible." But was it impossible, or was it exactly what Chelsea needed? Maresca broke the silence first, calm, sharp, with the tone of a man who had already thought 10 moves ahead. "Victor," he said, "you know the history. You know what that shirt has done, but you also know what this team needs. Do you believe you can carry that weight? Do you believe you can do what none before you have?" Osimhen's gaze hardened. "I am not afraid of curses. I am afraid of becoming forgotten. At Napoli, I became a champion. At Chelsea, I will not become a ghost. If I take that number, I must take it with the promise that this club stands behind me. Through goals, through failures, through storms. No scapegoating, no betrayal. Either I am your leader, or I am not your striker." The demand wasn't just about a number. It was about respect, about legacy, about identity. The room erupted into hushed arguments. One executive leaned toward another. "If we give him this, and he fails, the fans will eat him alive, and us too." Another shook his head. "If we don't, he'll walk away, and we'll look like fools. We've built this entire summer around him." The agent remained silent, but the faintest smile played on his lips. He knew the power of this moment. Meanwhile, Maresca watched Osimhen carefully. The coach saw more than just a player demanding a shirt number. He saw a man trying to carve his destiny. This was about being more than a transfer. This was about being a symbol. The discussion stretched into the night. Every angle was weighed. Could Chelsea risk empowering Osimhen this way? Could they risk not signing him at all? Was this condition bravery or arrogance? And yet, as the clock ticked past midnight, one thing became clear. Osimhen wasn't bluffing. His voice never shook. His eyes never wavered. He was deadly serious. For him, Chelsea was not an opportunity. It was a gamble of fate. Either he would come to Stamford Bridge as the man who broke the curse and became legend, or he wouldn't come at all. The climax of the meeting came with a question from the board. What happens, Victor, if we say no? His answer was immediate, almost cold. Then Chelsea will search for another striker, and I will search for another destiny. The weight of those words left the room breathless. At that moment, Chelsea realized they were standing on a knife's edge. Signing Osimhen had always been about money, negotiation, and timing, but now it was about something much bigger, identity. If they said yes, they risked their tradition, their image, their control. If they said no, they risked losing the one striker who could transform them. The room fell silent again. Papers remained unsigned. The meeting ended not with a handshake, not with a deal, but with an understanding. The next step would decide the future of both Chelsea and Osimhen. When Osimhen finally stood up to leave, the executives rose too. His mask caught the dim light one last time as he walked out. Behind him, Maresca whispered something to his staff. This is not about football anymore. This is about belief. And belief is the most dangerous weapon in football. Outside, London's night air greeted Osimhen with its chill. He slipped into the back seat of a waiting car, the city lights reflecting in the tinted glass for the fans. The transfer saga was still just headlines and rumors. But for those inside that room, the truth was clear. Chelsea's future had just been tied to a single condition, a condition no one had seen coming. Would Chelsea bend to his will and gamble on breaking their darkest curse, or would they walk away, forever haunted by the striker who could have changed everything? One thing was certain. This was no longer just a transfer. It was a story that would echo through Stamford Bridge for years to come. Chelsea left with the biggest decision of their modern era. Osimhen left with his pride intact, and the football world was left waiting for the answer.